I'm about to film what is probably the hardest book review I've ever had to write. Hey guys, it's Sarah, and today I have a book review for you. Today I'm going to be reviewing The War at Home, written by Rachel Starnes. This book was published on July 5th, and it was sent to me by Penguin Random House in exchange for an honest review, so that's what this is here. This book is an autobiography written by a military spouse, and it follows her kind of dealing with the things that her husband has to go through as being a Navy pilot, and it also deals with things related to the military and how they kind of affected her personally and affected her family. There are definitely some trigger warnings in here. There's a little bit of language. There is also marriage struggles along with long deployments, and also some depression and some cutting. So those are some triggers. If any of those things would affect you negatively, they're in here. So this book follows Ross and Rachel. Yes, let that sink in. Ross and Rachel. Ross and Rachel are childhood friends, and they end up reuniting after college and forming a relationship, and they eventually get married. Ross joins the Navy and fulfills his lifelong dream of becoming a fighter pilot, and Rachel finds herself thrown into a military wife role. So Rachel finds herself having a hard time making friends. She also is dealing with some depression that is lingering from her childhood, and she's dealing with her husband being gone a lot. In this book, Rachel really discusses a lot of the military life aspects, I guess you could say, and how she deals with them. And she does really go into a lot of things that military families have to deal with on a daily basis. Okay guys, this was a really hard review for me to write, because if you've been here for a while, you know that my husband is in the military. They are not in the same branch. This one is about the Navy. My husband is in the Air Force, but I don't know. It was really hard for me because I almost feel like I was too close to this or just too similar maybe. And a lot of things in here are things that, some of it are definitely things I've dealt with, you know, being a military spouse. There's just certain things that are going to happen regardless of what your husband does. I have gone through similar things in here, as both of our husbands are pilots, but I view the military very differently than she does, and I view being a military spouse and handle it a little bit differently than she does. So I think that more than anything is what frustrated me about this book. So one thing that I really did like about this book is that Rachel is very raw about her experiences and about how she was feeling about certain things, and she really didn't sugarcoat anything. She was very real about it, very honest, and she didn't shy away or just try to make something sound better than it actually was. So that aspect of this book I definitely appreciated, but there's a whole lot more that I didn't appreciate, so let me go into that. The first thing I didn't love about this book is that there are quite a few chapters where she goes into things from her childhood, which I guess were kind of important because she deals with depression because of a lot of that stuff and kind of abandonment issues. But at the same time, I felt like it was a little bit too much about her childhood. I didn't feel like we needed all that information, and I found myself kind of glazing over during those chapters a little bit. So they weren't my favorite, most definitely. I think they were still important, but they could have been shorter. Okay, so being a military spouse myself, while I was reading this book, I really felt like Rachel did not enjoy being a military spouse. She did not want to be a military spouse. She tended to take every opportunity she could to get away from military functions and going to things with her husband as his spouse, and just things that are very common in the military lifestyle. She chose or made excuses not to go to those things. She also didn't try very hard to make an effort to go to things and to see if she could make some friends. There were a couple friends that she made here and there that were very special to her, but in this lifestyle, you move around so much most of the time that you really have to put yourself out there, and you have to put on your big girl panties, and you have to go to some stuff and hope that you click with some people, because if you don't, then you definitely won't. And you're going to become a hermit, and you're not going to enjoy your time anywhere that you go because you're not going to have those bonds with some people. It took me a little bit of time to do that here as well, mainly because I kind of wanted to take some time to just kind of be a hermit a little bit. I've normally been really active in our communities, but when we moved here, I said, I'm going to take a few months and just be a hermit, and then I'll go out and see what I can do. And the first thing that I went to, I made 2 of my best friends here that are still my best friends today, and they will be for life. So you really have to make that effort yourself. People are not going to come and knock on your door and drag you out and force you to be friends. You have to make that effort yourself. And I felt like she didn't really want to do that. Granted, she did talk about a couple of instances where she went to a spouse group meeting or a spouse club gathering. And a spouse club is basically kind of whatever squadron that your husband is in. The spouses usually come together as a group and they have meetings, or they go do social things every month. Our personal spouse group here does one thing every month. And it's more of like a gathering, like, come, let's go be social, let's go do something, and let's come together as a group. And it's kind of mainly the people from your squadron and the people that your husband are working with every day. She did mention a couple times where she tried to go to functions like that. However, she says that she felt very excluded and called the spouses crazy. And they were these elaborate stories of these spouses acting like crazy people. Okay, not every spouse group is amazing, and I know that. Not every spouse in the military is amazing. I know some crazy people. I do, believe me. But every function that you try to go to is like that? Really? And again, I may have been taking that a little bit personally because I'm in a spouse group, and I think our spouse group is amazing and wonderful, and I don't feel like any new people who come into our spouse group is treated that way. So it was hard. That one was hard for me. It was hard for me to be okay with that. So again, it may just be more of, I've never personally experienced that. But you know, I've heard horror stories of people who were in these groups before me, and I'm not saying it doesn't happen and that it doesn't exist, but it seems like it happened to her more often than a lot of people. I also feel that she took it very personally when Ross had to go away for a training or for a deployment. She would literally pack all of his things in the house away while he was gone so she didn't have to look at them, and so that she wouldn't think of him while he was gone. And to me, that was a first red flag. Being gone in a military household is something that is just, it's going to happen. It's the nature of the job. Some are gone more than others, most definitely. If you work in the finance office, you're not going to deploy for 6 months at a time. That's not going to happen. But when you're a fighter pilot, you are. That's your job, and you have to go and you have to protect, and that's what you do. Personally, my husband has been deployed at least 6 times. I don't know if he will deploy any more from here on out or not, but it's definitely a possibility, and we're prepared for it if it does happen. And it's something that's just, you, again, put on your big girl panties. You got to deal with it. This is going to happen. But to completely pack up all his things and make it seem like he was never there just so you can handle it while he's gone, I don't think that's healthy. I don't think so. I mean, this is your husband. This is someone that you have devoted your life to, and the second he has to leave, you're just going to completely shut him out. And she does deal with bouts of depression throughout this book as well, but it wasn't the military that caused her depression. I'm sure it didn't help. I know it didn't help because this is a hard lifestyle. It's very, very difficult to be in and to handle all the stressful situations that you go through, especially when they are gone. You basically become the head of your household, and that's hard. But her depression stems from her childhood, not from the military. So I was trying to really keep that in mind and not think that the military was what was causing her to be depressed. It didn't help, but it wasn't the root cause either. Bottom line for me, I felt like there was absolutely no pride in the fact that her husband was in the military. I felt like she cast a very negative light on the lifestyle and the military in general. And I'm not expecting every single spouse to be super proud to be a military spouse. It's very hard, and it affects people in different ways. It definitely does. But I feel like if we're going to write a book about being a military spouse, there should be some sort of pride there. There should be some sort of, yes, it's hard, but at the same time, it's also rewarding in this. And anything rewarding that she talked about, it was like one sentence and then she moved on to more negative things. So I didn't get a good balance of it. And I feel like if someone who reads this who is not a military spouse, they would never want to be a military spouse. And I think that that's sad because I've been a military spouse for 14 years, almost 14 years now. And it's hard. It's very hard. It's difficult. There are situations that we get into that I don't want to be in. I don't want to be the head of the household when my husband is gone, but I have to do it. It's just reality. I have to do it. I put on my big girl panties and I do it. Do I whine about it? Absolutely. That's what my girlfriends are for, because they go through the same things and we rely on each other. And while it's hard and while it's not for everybody, I also know that I can handle it, and I do. And the reward that we get from him being in the military is so much greater than the hard stuff. It really is. And I don't know if that's could be a product of the different branch of the military that we're in. The Air Force really, really takes care of their families. Like, I'm impressed with how well they do. I don't know about the other branches. I'm not in it. I've never been in that environment, so I don't know. But I've never felt abandoned. I've never felt like I didn't have somewhere to go or someone to talk to when I really need it. I've always felt supported, whether my husband is here or not. And that's why I had a hard time with this book, because I felt like she did feel abandoned and I felt like she didn't have support. I don't know how much of that is self-inflicted, mainly because she didn't really make an effort to go out and do anything or to be around other military spouses. If she got out, she left town. Literally, she worked in the next town over so that she didn't have to be around it. And so, I don't know. Where's the balance? I didn't feel any balance in this book at all. I felt it was negative, negative, negative. Here's a sentence that's positive, and then negative, negative, negative. So, overall, I feel like this book just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But at the same time, this is not my experience. This is her experience. So while it rubbed me the wrong way and I felt like it was mostly negative about the military, it wasn't my experience. So I would never write a book like this because I haven't gone through any of this stuff. So it was hard for me to rate, because when I finished this book, I was almost angry about it and I wanted to give it like a 1 or 2 stars. But at the same time, this is not a biography. This isn't like a fiction, someone made this up, and it was just negative towards the military. This is stuff that she experienced. And just because I haven't experienced it doesn't mean it's not true, and doesn't mean that I should give it a low rating just because I didn't like her experiences that she went through. So, can you understand why it's hard for me to rate this book? I don't know. I ended up giving this 3 stars. Mainly for the aspects that I talked about. I felt like there wasn't a good balance of negative to positive. And again, as a military spouse, writing a book about being a military spouse, there should be some sort of balance to balance out the negative, because she's still married to him. They had their problems. They even talked about splitting up, but they didn't. They stuck it out and stuck together, and there has to be a reason for that. So why? If this lifestyle is so hard and so terrible, why are you choosing to stay? There has to be some sort of reward for her in order to stay married. So I didn't get that, and that's kind of what I was wanting. And again, I'm not expecting every military spouse to have wonderful stories about the military. I have some horror stories myself, you know, like our life has not been roses this entire time. It's been hard. It really has. But there's also so many rewarding things that I tend to reflect on when things are hard. And she didn't really do that. She just went into her depression. So I think I'm done. On the plus side, this made me want to watch Top Gun again, because her husband was actually an instructor at Top Gun. So I might have to watch that again. Made me want to. One of my favorite movies of all time. All right, guys, that's going to be it for me today. I'm going to leave an Amazon link down to this book down below if you guys want to check it out. If it's something that you feel like you're interested in reading and want to kind of get her story about the things that she went through, then go ahead and pick it up. But I'm going to leave an Amazon link down below so you can go do that if you would like to. So thank you, Penguin, for sending this book my way so that I could read it and experience it and have these feelings and kind of get them out. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. If you guys have read this, let me know your thoughts as well. And I will talk to you guys again soon. Have a great day. Bye.